Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. So as Duncan introduced, I'm going to share with you some insights about cities addressing poverty via food solidarity. And I would like to start by saying that, well, we have gone through this COVID-19 crisis. We are still going through it. And we have seen, I mean, from the positive side, we have seen a very important resilience of societies, different players, different stakeholders at all levels of governance. We have seen innovative actions, once again, from everybody, the private sector, the public sectors, citizens, NGOs. In relation to food, we have seen many people interested in what they eat, where they buy from, health-related issues, cooking at home, not only because being forced to, but also because being interested in. In some cities, we have seen a huge increase of people buying from their local suppliers, either directly or from local short food supply chains. So there are some positive aspects we can take out of the crisis. We have seen, in terms of food solidarity, we have seen very nice innovations such as the suspended baskets in Italy, or the hashtag pour eux in France and Belgium, hashtag for them, via a network of volunteers providing food to homeless people via networks of volunteer cyclists. But obviously, well, this period is not only about blooming and rainbow-like solutions, some of which I will indeed present today, because I want really to share with you what municipalities have done to address this. But we should really learn from this crisis to learn what we can do when those the most affected on a daily basis are even more affected during the crisis. So indeed, some of us have reached to their most extreme. This period has stressed existing inequalities, and some of our co-inhabitants have had very strong difficulties accessing not only quality food, but just food. So we should definitely remind ourselves and keep on working on these issues throughout this new normal, as we call it, in order to transform the way we live, the way we interact with each other, the way we live in the natural environment, the way we care about each other, the way we produce, the way we consume, in order to ensure a fairer and more resilient world. So just a very few introductory words about myself. So as Duncan said, I'm from Resilient Solutions. I'm based in Brussels, where I've been for 13 years. I'm half French, half Polish. I'm an UrbanA program expert together with an urban innovative action expert supporting 2 projects. I'm also an UrbanA fellow, and nice to be part of it. And I'm also highly involved in local projects in Brussels dealing with food, sustainable food systems in general, working with a lot with citizens, but with NGOs as well, working on issues related to food waste, to packaging, to changes of consumer behaviors, and many others. I won't go into all these details. What's important is, as much as possible, I'm trying to make the link in between what's happening at a very local level and higher levels of governance, what's happening very concretely on the ground and strategies, and also between theory and practice and how the two can be linked. So when talking about food poverty, it's important to note that in 2018, 110 million people were at risk of poverty or social exclusion, and 36 million people were unable to afford a quality meal every second day. What the crisis has shown that was an increase in these vulnerabilities, and also new people being put at risk. So, for example, decreased revenues of those who have been forced to stop working, either because they were part of the informal market, of the black market economy, and or because they were made redundant during this period. The lack of available cheap food, as the first food to run out from supermarket was actually the cheapest food. The increased prices on some products in some cities, not only worldwide, but in Europe as well. The difficulties to go out shopping for the most vulnerable ones. So not only because of restrictions in most of our cities, but also because they were the most at risk health-wise because of pre-existing health risks and or because these were elderly people. And we've seen also a strong gender bias in these issues, as many women had been affected by the decreased revenues, and they are also generally in charge of food provision and food management in households. The way this issue has been addressed, so either by municipalities, charities, stakeholders, private sector, has also been extremely challenged. So food aid systems had to reorganize themselves totally with regard to food provision schemes, but also the new sanitary rules. There has been an increased competition for food supply with the rush to supermarkets and storage at home, but also the fact that everybody had to eat at home. As you know, many supermarkets were out of food, meaning with less food supply available to charities or for grassroots initiatives, bearing in mind that there had been a boom on the other side of these initiatives to support those in needs. So more organizations wanted to support those in needs, but less food available. And children have also been affected by the closure of school canteens, bearing in mind that many of them benefit from only one quality meal a day from the school canteens, and worldwide it would affect 320 million children. So my aim today is to try and cover these three questions. How have cities supported those in need of food during the crisis? How have they organized traditional food aid systems, such as funded meals in canteens or regular food distributions? If I have enough time, and the co-host will tell me then in due time, we'll also address the issue of using food to address urban poverty. I'll start with a quote from Albert Garcia Marcial from the city of Moya de Valles in Spain, who stressed that the idea between all the initiatives they had launched during this period was really not to leave anybody behind and to be as inclusive as possible, also learning from this period and this experience for the future. So my first case will refer to the city of Athenu in Cyprus. And just going back, briefly to my introduction, so I will share with you cases from the URBACT network cities, as well as, if I have time, with the Urban Innovative Action. And once again, especially within these communities, we address very different viewpoints on all the issues we tackle. And here I will deliberately adopt the viewpoint of municipalities, so how cities approach these issues. So Athenu in Cyprus is the lead partner of a network called Volunteering Cities, which support volunteering activities in its city amongst its citizens in order to reduce social exclusion and to also foster collaboration, intergenerational collaboration. So we have seen many bottom-up networks and initiatives appearing in all of our cities in Europe and worldwide. And in this particular city, the municipality federated managed to bring together volunteers who were eager to support those who were unable to go out shopping in order to collect the food from different stakeholders and to redistribute them to those in need. So the food was collected from some cafes, some association of local stock breeders who provided cheese and other kind of items, legumes, nuts, chocolates, and a local supermarket also donated some shopping vouchers. This program was implemented with a local social welfare program, and 25 volunteers supported the project and delivered to 60 beneficiaries. You will see that my examples are also from cities of very varying sizes, so that you can see different kind of scales. And so I'd like to finish this case by a quote from Kyriakos Kareklas, the mayor of Athenu, who stated that they had taken advantage of the existing pandemic situation to invite again people and companies interested to bring in their support. And they also saw that there was a great willingness, not only from firms, but from individuals, students, and universities. And he went on further, stressing the importance of volunteering within a specific case and more widely in society, that spirit of help and volunteerism is something that gives extra power to people in charge who want to help people in need. And in these situations where people suffer more than before, if you ask, you get. Sorry. So my next case is that of Moya de Valles in Spain, 52,000 inhabitants, which was a partner in the urban network, which focused on food systems of rural cities. And this is a city which addressed the needs from children being unable to benefit from school canteen meals. So as part of a wider regional project, and together with the support of La Caixa Bank, these families in need were able to receive a credit card, which was topped up with the amount of the reduction, the discount they would have received from their school meals. So all in all, they would receive €4 per meal not taken at school. And for those taking part in after school care, they would also receive €2 for the snack. To make it short, the amount provided by the region would not cover the overall amount received by all the families. So the city also opted up in order to ensure that all the families will get the same amount. So 1,087 cards were distributed. And as Albert Garcia Macian stated, the number one priority in this period has been to take care of families with fewer resources. Bearing in mind that on the 8th of May 2020, the City Council held an online plenary session attended by all the political parties, government and opposition, and they had approved a €1.5 million to face the social crisis brought in by COVID-19. So this €1.5 million is for not only for social issues, also for local retailers, but with a specific target for families with fewer resources. And for example, to help social services to incorporate more families in the credit card solution. My next case is that of the food aid system in food aid distribution system put in place by Milan, 1.3 million inhabitants. So Milan, which is well known for its food policy council, the Milan Food Policy Pact, and this is now the approach they've taken during the crisis has been shared quite a lot. So I'm not going to spend too much time, but at the end of my presentation, I will provide you with some additional links so that you can also get direct inputs on this from Andrea Magarini, the Milan Food Policy Coordinator. So the response of the Milan Food Policy Unit, together with the Social Policies Department, was so to address access to food for those in need, bearing in mind that the whole previous distribution scheme was totally blocked. So it was totally impossible for charities and NGOs to work in the same way as before. So the city took over the responsibility to collect the food in 10 different hubs scattered throughout the city in order to distribute them to those in needs being identified by the Social Policies Department. But it wasn't as traditional food aid systems where you had mostly dried products, but they also created a municipal grocery market, Foodie, where they received some fresh fruits and vegetables, which they also added to the pack. So 180 people have been involved in this project, which encompasses the retailers, volunteers, people active in the food donation system, as well as the municipality employees, over 80 of them, drivers associations, and donors. So 180 people involved in this scheme for the benefit of, at the beginning, there had been 1,000 families involved receiving the packs. After 2 weeks, it was already 6,000 families, and now it's reached over 20,000 people benefiting from the scheme. And as I mentioned, the municipal grocery market with the fresh fruit and vegetables, the focus of this system has also been, as Andrea Magarini said, and I quoted him, not only to improve access to food, but also the quality of food aid. And as Andrea also stated, an effective local food policy helps overcoming situations of crisis like the one we have all been facing since the end of February. The network built on other issues such as food waste and school canteens, and has helped in the identification of some successful actions to ensure access to food for many vulnerable groups during the lockdown. And this last quote about food policy is a very nice link to my next case, which is about Montsartou. And I've seen that Nathan from Montsartou was with us already, at least at the beginning of the discussion. So maybe you can also ask him for further questions during the breakout rooms, breakout sessions. So the three latest cases we've seen, Mollet de Valles, Milan, and Montsartou, they all have a strong food policy, and they embed all their activities within it. And Montsartou is extremely strongly focused on its food sovereignty. So Montsartou is a city in the south of France, 10,000 inhabitants. It's a lead partner of the Urban Bio Canteens network, which focuses on 100% organic canteens. So Montsartou, and here you have a picture of its municipal farm. So it has a municipal farm, which is also a whole reflection about the place of farming and harvesting within the city, and how to make it make good food accessible locally to all inhabitants. So this farm usually provides food for canteens, which were closed during lockdown. Some of the food was still used to provide some meals for children of the healthcare sector and of people working in the healthcare sector. Some of it was preserved for later, and some of it was also donated for charities. And the whole reflection about it is that if you want to ensure that everybody's going to eat food and good food, you need to ensure that it is not only as local as possible, but that you are also that you have the responsibility over it, and you are not dependent upon imports from far away, as well as on other private and profit-oriented stakeholders. So as Thibault Lalande, the Biocanteens coordinator, stated, the crisis will probably have a terrible social and economic impact, and access of the most vulnerable ones to quality food is more than ever a priority. And in some territories, the crisis is food related before being sanitary. And it is also necessary to act structurally in the longer term, notably regarding the current climate crisis, because the ecological and those food related transition cannot happen without social justice, and in particular, the support to the most vulnerable ones. Lucia, do I have the time, or Duncan, do I have the time for my last part about using food to address urban poverty, or should I jump to my conclusion?
Maybe you could jump to your conclusion, because there is also quite a lot of people who would like to join the listener part. So
okay. Okay, so just a teaser then for this case. I wanted to share with you something that I will not share with you today, maybe during another session, or we will see, but there will be an article published on that issue after the summer. So I took this analysis from the Test in FIV project in Lille, which is about the creation of a whole food ecosystem for social inclusion and reduction of urban poverty, physically based in a former industrial building. And the whole approach was to use food and food-related activities in order to reduce urban poverty. And when you get the slides, you can have a first glimpse at this analysis was made about who benefited from the activities, with what activities, and what impact. So what can we then learn from the cases, especially related to the crisis? We have seen a lot of innovation. So as we mentioned, here I stressed a lot the question of municipalities, but it's obviously innovation at all levels. Civil society has been extremely creative in supporting each other, and in the past few decades, it's probably been the highest peak of solidarity overall in most cities. We've seen also the redistribution of available budgets, and not only during this crisis, but also reflection about what will happen next. And that's also Albert from Moyet, who really stressed that it will be included, this whole new budget line will be included in the future of addressing food poverty and health as well, social issues. We've seen the interlinking between solidarity, health, food poverty, all these issues who don't have to be tackled together, but when tackled together, also providing more opportunities to actually provide food for those in needs. We've stressed the question of autonomy and territoriality, bearing in mind that all European cities are different, not all are rural, not all have the ability to produce locally, but the whole reflection, the food policies bring to those. And finally, the inputs this can bring to implementing the farm to fork strategy, which doesn't stress so much the issue of food poverty, except for making food affordable to all, but at least stresses the importance of multi-level governance, and that's where cities can bring in their experience to nurture the implementation of this strategy. And I'd like just to finish with this quote from Gilles Perrol, so elected representative from Montsartou, who was in the last case I presented, who said that it is at the local level that we need to act now. State centralism does not provide us with the quick and efficient answers we need. Within these first 2 months of crisis, admin burden has disappeared as we have had to quickly react and adjust ourselves. And this is even more reality that the current crisis can also show what could happen with climate change, and the vaccine will not solve it. So I personally find this quote from Gilles very interesting because of this territoriality aspect, because we can see that food poverty cannot be tackled by itself. It's part of a wider range of issues. Here in the urban A, we really talk about sustainable and just cities and how to combine these two together in order to ensure fairer society. I provided you with some additional references. These are embedded links, so hopefully when you get the PDF, it will work. And I thank you very much. I know I've been quite quick in many of my cases, but hopefully it's a good teaser for further discussion and further references afterwards. Thanks a lot.